Hello again. I thought I'd take a bit of a break from talking about Anita Sarkeesian to examine a statistic that is often touted by feminists and social justice bloggers as evidence that women are part of gaming culture. Perhaps you've heard people saying that 45% of gamers are women. I've seen this number many times in the past year, and it's really starting to annoy me because we have little reason to take it seriously. I'm going to be explaining why. This 45% statistic is taken from a 2013 report by a group called the ESA. The ESA, or Entertainment Software Association, is an organization that researches and publishes statistics about video game sales and the gaming habits of the American public. Every year, they release a booklet of essential facts about the gaming industry, which is available as a PDF on their website. Again, their most recent survey has determined that 45% of gamers are female. This statistic has been trumpeted all over the internet by bloggers and game journalists alike, and many are excitedly talking about the shifting demographics of a once male-dominated industry. However, we have some very good reasons to be suspicious of this figure. One of them is that, if you scroll down to the end of the ESA's Essential Facts booklet, you'll notice that the ESA is actually a lobbying group for the video game industry. All of their members are major video game companies like Nintendo, Sony and Microsoft, as well as publishers like EA, Ubisoft, and Square Enix. In the case of this study, we're being asked to trust the video game industry to accurately report information about itself. This is especially difficult because, to my knowledge, they haven't released much information about their methodology. We don't know how they arrived at that 45% figure, or what exactly their definition of a gamer is. For all we know, as far as this study is concerned, your grandmother who plays solitaire on her laptop every Friday is a gamer. Your wife who only plays Candy Crush and Angry Birds on her iPhone is a gamer. Your daughter, who played Castleville on Facebook once during her computer class at school, is a gamer. While there is nothing wrong with being a casual gamer or playing any of those games, it's a bit misleading to look at a statistic that, for all we know, could be almost entirely comprised of those people, and use it to justify making changes to AAA games that come out for dedicated gaming platforms. This is exactly what many feminists and social justice bloggers are trying to do. Let's try looking at a more concrete example of why these kinds of statistics can be misleading. The following is a study conducted by a group called the Nielson Company, which conducts research about consumer trends in entertainment. Among other things, the study measured the gaming habits of PC gamers in 2008, via a tracking device that was placed on the participants' computers. Here is a chart showing the age and gender of those surveyed. As we can see, men and women between the age of 25 and 54, along with men and women over the age of 55, made up the vast majority of PC gamers. In this study, it appears that older women make up the biggest percentage of gamers. This may seem counterintuitive, but there's a reason why this is. Here is a list of the top 10 most popular games as measured in the study. So, it appears that the vast majority of PC gamers play casual games. Leading the pack are free games that come with windows such as Solitaire, Free Cell, Pinball and Minesweeper. MMOs such as World of Warcraft also rank highly, as do browser games. It's worth pointing out that at the time the study was conducted, Facebook games like Farmville and Words with Friends didn't exist yet. The Nielsen Company also collected some background information about their survey's participants, and summarized the backgrounds of the 25 to 54-year-old demographic thusly. The vast majority of players in this group are white, with males' primary occupation in a professional or management profession, and females' occupation primarily in homemaking or administrative professions. So, the results of this study would suggest that the majority of female PC gamers are casual gamers, most of whom are board secretaries and housewives playing solitaire, browser games, and World of Warcraft. This is information that shouldn't surprise anybody in the gaming community, yet you will not see feminists talking about it. What's interesting about this study is that it shows the extent to which casual gamers dwarf hardcore gamers, to the point where hardcore PC gamers make up such a small percentage of PC gamers overall that they're unable to skew the data in a very meaningful way. The results of the survey show that female gamers make up around 55% of PC gamers, while male gamers make up about 45%. On the other hand, if the Nielsen company were to have eliminated casual games and MMOs from their considerations, their results would have been very different. This goes to show that your definition of what a gamer is matters, and that if you're going to use a study to justify changing AAA titles, your study had better have eliminated the appropriate variables. The problem with not knowing a study's methodology is that you don't know if they've done this or not. Without the proper context, the numbers they give you are meaningless. The industry shills that put out these numbers know this, and they also know that most of the public will lap up any figure that's thrown at them without questioning where it came from. The ESA study has all sorts of questionable information in it, some of which I'll examine now. This next slide looks at parents' awareness of the games their children are playing. The obvious question is, how do they know? The only way they'd be able to gather this information is with a self-reporting questionnaire administered to parents and children, both of whom would have incentives to lie. Parents filling out these questionnaires are also going to be hampered by the fact that they might not know if their kid bought or rented a game without them present. Another issue is that if one of your questions is simply, "Are you present when your child purchases or rents games?" Circle yes or no. People will say yes even if that is only true some of the time. This is another reason why knowing the exact means by which a survey was conducted is important. The wording of the question can have a huge impact on the results. This particular statistic is also increasingly irrelevant in today's day and age, where most kids pirate video games, music, movies and television shows, often under the noses of their computer-illiterate parents. This next statistic concerns the average age of gamers. If you notice, they've subdivided the age categories in very specific ways to make it look like people of all ages play video games in equal measure. However, it's entirely possible that a few specific subsets of people within those age ranges play the most video games, and are skewing the data for their whole range. I suspect that this is the case. The under 18 category is going to encompass all of the kids and teenagers playing video games. The 18 to 35 category is going to encompass all of the older teenagers and college kids playing video games. And the 36 plus category is going to catch anyone older than 36 who isn't dead, which is a much wider age range than the first two ranges. We also don't know what their definition of a game player is, or if they even used the same metrics to get all of the different figures in the chart. Furthermore, saying that the average age of game players is 30 doesn't mean much when you consider that, as with the Nielsen study, we could have a large number of seniors playing solitaire and phone games that are inflating the average. Anyhow, this next slide concerns the type of people who buy video games. When you consider that parents and grandparents buy games for their children and grandchildren, and that people in general often buy games for other people, this data isn't worth much. Finally, this last ESA slide shows the average number of years men and women have been playing games. This statistic is something that could be falling victim to what I'm going to call the Anita conundrum, whereby if you play your first video game when you're 5 years old and play a grand total of 3 video games over the next 25 years, the statements "I've been playing games since I was 5 years old and I've been playing games for 25 years" are still technically true. We don't know if they corrected for this in any way. How many games do you have to play, and how frequently, in order to say you've been playing video games for 15 years? So, now that we've looked at all this data, it begs the question, why does the ESA put out information like this? I think it's because the industry wants to broaden its market. If people think that lots of other people like them are playing video games and that it's the new, hip thing for everyone to do, they'll be more likely to get into it. Additionally, a lot of this data seems designed to reassure the public that video games are positive things in people's lives that parents have under control, and that they're enjoyed equally by people of all ages instead of just nerdy teenage boys in their basements. On the other hand, Anita Sarkeesian and other feminist-friendly bloggers trumpet the 45% statistic in order to rally people to their cause, convincing them that we're on the cusp of some cultural shift towards a more inclusive gaming community, with the feminists leading the charge. You may then, quite possibly, decide to give them money. Of course, they ignore the fact that the ESA has released similar figures since 2004, when they started publishing their Essential Fact books. Here are the ESA's figures for the percentage of gamers who are female, going back to 2004. Whatever the ESA's methodology may be, their figures on female gamers have remained mostly consistent. You probably notice a visible spike in the percentage of female gamers in 2012. One other thing that happened in 2012 was that they expanded their definition of a gamer to include people who play games on handheld consoles, phones and tablets, a market mostly dominated by women. This was mentioned in an interview with ESA Vice President Dan Hewitt for the tech news site Ars Technica. The article is linked in the description. Another interesting fact from that interview is that in order to qualify as a gamer, you need to play a minimum of 1 hour per week on one of those devices. Unfortunately, the ESA is very selective about who it chooses to share its methods with, so consumers like us only receive bits and pieces of information through gaming news sites. This particular revelation is the only one I know about at the moment. Let me know in the comments if you feel there are other things we all should know. Like me, you were probably suspicious when the 45% figure came out because we all know damn well that 45% of the people fragging us in Team Fortress 2 and Call of Duty are not women. One question this does raise, however, is how much of an untapped market there is for female gamers in the hardcore gaming scene. Even if it's true that most of that 45% is made up of casual phone and Facebook gamers, why is this? Are these people not interested in doing anything more dedicated? Do they feel that, in general, video games aren't for them? There's no obvious answer to this question. If there was, the gaming industry would be all over it. One thing that has proven consistently true is that games aimed specifically at women don't usually sell very well. Many favored games among feminists, such as Beyond Good and Evil and Dreamfall, were commercial failures. There have also been attempts to bring Japanese-style visual novel games to Western audiences, with little success. While I do welcome the entry of female gamers into gaming culture with open arms, I am concerned about biased data collection, and about statistics being misused by feminists and other undesirables to promote their agendas. This could result in people making games that neither men nor women want to play, and it won't bring us any closer to making things that women really want. Unfortunately, the quality of game journalism is often so terrible and biased that many video game news sources publish data like the ESA's 45% figure unquestioningly. I think that we need to demand more accountability from people who do this, and to get in the habit of questioning the data that's fed to us by the media. So, that's it for my analysis of this seemingly omnipresent number. I have a link to all the ESA studies and the Nielson study in the description. I should warn you that the ESA booklets for 2004, 2005, and 2007 are no longer hosted on the ESA website, so you have to download them from third parties. I hope you found this presentation interesting. Until next time. Peace.